If you've ever thought about starting a podcast for your personal brand, but you don't really have much more than just your idea, then this video is for you. One of the problems you're probably running into is fighting for attention in spaces that are designed to scatter minds instead of focusing them. My name is Misbah Haque. I'm the author of Pod Mahal, and I've helped launch dozens of podcasts since 2016, both for myself and for my clients, many times as fast as a week. You probably already see how you can use a podcast to repurpose clips and pull quotes and really power a lot of your media ecosystem. But in this video, I'm going to show you how you can use your podcast as a home base for everything that you do. If you need some more hands-on support, by the way, whether it's setting up your equipment or you have questions around software, feel free to book a one-to-one free podcast strategy call with me in the description below. Now let's get started with step one, which is to define your podcast in one sentence. The reason this is important is both for internal and external reasons. So internally, you will feel very confident and know what the guiding beacon is for every other decision that you make for your show when you have a one-line description that you feel really good about. This is also the thing that you might feel flustered when somebody asks you, oh, cool, you're working on a podcast. What's it about? If you don't have that one sentence description that you feel good about, it can really make you feel like, oh, what am I doing here? So this is a real challenging exercise. It's one that takes some time to develop. So it will evolve over time as you record more episodes. But starting with this will give you a lot of confidence. The next thing this is really important for is that it's the sentence that other people will actually share. So if you don't give your listeners and viewers language to share with their friends, they're not going to share it in the first place. Or if they do, they might butcher the explanation that they might have of you and your brand. And so giving a one sentence description that is easy to understand, easy to remember, is a really effective way to make sure that your show spreads from the listeners themselves. It's a great way to compound a lot of the existing attention you've worked so hard for. When you are putting this together, think of something that works within less than 10 words and try speaking it out loud a couple times to make sure that it actually makes sense and flows well versus just looking good on paper. Step two is going to be all about picking your format and flow. And so this is important because whatever you decide in this stage is going to dictate how complex or simple your production workflow is. And so if you decide to do in-person, multiple guests, you need a live studio for it, that is obviously much harder to sustain long term. And I've had clients who have gone that route. But in the beginning, what I recommend is keeping it very simple to start and doing a remote setup. If you do a remote setup with solo episodes and you do a mixture of guest episodes, you've set yourself up for flexibility. You've set yourself up for control of your content schedule, and you also have that variety trickled in with guests you may want to network with, talk to, and subject matter experts that you may even want to learn from. Now, everybody I talk to ends up having an idea of what they want their flow or structure to look like. If you already have a hunch for what episodes you like, what styles you like, keep all of that in mind when determining what the overall structure for your show is going to be. Step three is recording with what you have. This is the stage where most people get hung up, or they accomplish this stage of getting the best equipment and then completely abandoning the project for years. I've seen millionaires who have built out studios inside of their homes. They have custom crafted desks and all sorts of cool stuff in there, but they literally have not proceeded to do anything beyond that. So this stage is something that I want to remind you to start with something simple. When I first started my podcast in 2016, the Airborne Mind Show, that was done in my childhood bedroom on a $60 microphone. And when I got to help professional athlete Marcus Philly launch and co-host the next 120 episodes of Look Good, Move Well, that show was also recorded on that same $60 microphone. I just got a second one of that. And we did that in a gym environment, which was pretty noisy. So a lot of my clients end up going with options that even today on Amazon are under $60 to begin. And then you can always level up and improve your production layer by layer. But I find too many people get hung up on this part, and instead of focusing on what really matters, which is what are you going to say? What are the ideas? Because that stuff actually shines through the screen even if you aren't using 4K cameras. If you have an iPhone that is past iPhone 12, that works really well for recording. And if you have a 1080p webcam on your laptop, using something like Riverside is a great way to get started with those remote interviews. If you need an up-to-date list of all of my equipment recommendations, check out all that stuff in the description below. And again, feel free to book a one-to-one strategy call with me if you need help building out your studio. I'm happy to do that. Step 4 is to publish and distribute smartly. If you are publishing, let's say, a video version of your podcast, you're going to be on audio platforms and you're also going to get to be on YouTube. The benefit of just doing YouTube alone is the discovery and top of funnel attention that you can get. But I find that pairing that with a second platform, a social platform that you're already trying to grow, is a great way to repurpose this media immediately. And so for a lot of my clients, this ends up being something like Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, X. So whatever that is for you, let's say that it's Instagram, then now instead of thinking about what is the latest trend or thinking of a post from scratch, you have something every week that is a pillar piece of what you want to be thinking about, talking about, that you can use as inspiration, not just for clips, but it could be for pull quotes, it could be for carousels, it could be for a short form video that you reshoot if you want to. So there are layers to how you can repurpose a lot of this media. Another thing a lot of my clients, I end up getting them to do is a newsletter, right? So that they can deplatform a lot of these top listeners and basically have their contact info. And so, okay, to do a newsletter from scratch every single week can take up a lot of headspace. It can be one extra thing to do. But if you are publishing a podcast, you have something where just driving people to that episode or maybe transcribing it and doing a written version, that is something that is very easy to do, especially with AI nowadays, in a way that still preserves your voice and allows you to be in one extra place. And so it's not about being everywhere all at once. It's about thinking about where do you really want to be, what is congruent with how you naturally want to create, and then using podcasting as a way to serve that. So if you are somebody who likes to talk first and then write second, then podcasts are perfect for throwing around ideas, and then you can, in a clean way, get transcribed versions of what you just talked about for written stuff. Versus if you are writing first person like me, then starting in a notebook, starting, in your notes app with all these ideas and titles and maybe hooks and bullets of what you want to talk about will be the way that you start. And maybe publishing your newsletter first is a way to organize that script, and then using that as a basis for your podcast is a way to go. So there are unlimited ways to use this. You just have to, instead of letting the platforms use you, you want to use them. And I hope that helps. One of the signs you'll notice is this cohesiveness and connective tissue beginning to form around all of your content everywhere you are. And even though you know that a lot of this stuff is being repurposed in multiple places, the people who are consuming it won't make that connection all the time, and it will just reinforce and help improve recall of the things that you are trying to teach them. Step 5 is to make the right associations. So everything that you do, whether it's a solo episode, whether it's a guest episode, is going to be making some kind of association in your listener's mind. And so at the very least, the way that you want to leave a good impression and make that listener go, if this is right for me, I'm going to subscribe or save this for later, is by making sure the titles that you are selecting and choosing to actually dive into are worth the time and effort. I've seen so many people record an amazing episode, but the way that they title it, it's never going to get discovered, and it's never going to be interesting enough to click for their ideal viewer or listener. So you want to master that stage first. And something you'll discover when you're writing the first 10 titles is, okay, what am I going to talk about? Specifically, what topics? And then also, what are the guests that I want to have on? Because that is a major way to form associations. And so if you have certain guests that can speak about certain topics, those can be the perfect associations you're trying to build. There may also be these dream guests that you have, which I think are worth actually noting. Who are the 50, 100 people that would actually change the trajectory of my show and maybe my personal brand? Because often if you even land one or two of them, that can go a really long way and make your show very credible by association and make it way easier for you to get a lot of other guests. This is exactly what happened to me with my very first show, because I started with, some well-known guests in the weightlifting community that carried over into the CrossFit community, and it just kind of, steamrolled, where I could list 5-6 people that everybody I was pitching also wanted to be associated with and next to. So the power of associations is very huge. Know how you are incorporating that into your brand and into your show. Focusing on these steps is going to take you way further than beginning to worry about what editing software am I going to use and things like that, because that isn't solving the problem of what the words are that you need to speak into this mic, what you're going to talk about, and what the real major decisions of setting up the foundations for your show is going to actually entail. And so I hope these steps helped you do that. Again, if you need some more one-on-one help, feel free to book a free podcast strategy call with me in the description below. I appreciate you taking the time and hanging out, and I will see you on the next one.